I know Ellie Swift for a while now, thanks to our dear friend and life coach trainer, Julie Parker. She's the kind of person I can sit with over coffee or walk along the beach with, and the conversation just flows from life to business, the meaning of it all. I love that Ellie can also talk about strategy, soul, and space holding all in one breath, just like me, and make you want to scribble down every single word. Ellie is also the mastermind expert. She's helped hundreds of coaches, mentors, and consultants build what she calls scalable freedom. And she's created her own thriving mastermind while also teaching others to do the same in a course called the Mastermind Model. And she's here today to share the sacred strategy behind why masterminds are so powerful, not just for scaling your income, but for creating transformation that lasts as well and to serve your clients. So, as you listen, I want you to tune in with a different kind of ear. This isn't just about learning what Ellie does, it's about asking yourself these following questions. Okay. The questions are: do I have a framework that embodies my medicine and the legacy I want to leave? Am I creating or holding space that feels truly communal, where transformation happens because people are seen, witnessed, and supported? Am I currently in a mastermind or group that's holding me in my growth as a business owner? And if not, what might change if I was? If you need the nuts and bolts to creating a mastermind, Ellie is your teacher. You can learn more about her and her work at ellieswift.com. I'm also going to share a little bit about her potency and magic here. So bear with me before we go right into the podcast interview itself. So let me tell you a little bit about Ellie. Ellie Swift is the mastermind expert and business coach for 6 and 7-figure coaches, mentors, and consultants creating scalable freedom. As an ex-corporate marketer turned CEO, Ellie has become the go-to for people starting and scaling their masterminds through her program, the Mastermind Model. She also runs her own mastermind, the Scalable Freedom Mastermind, where she shares her 9+ years of expertise in online business and also hosts the Scalable Freedom Show podcast with over 250 plus episodes available to binge right now. Ellie spent a decade working in marketing in London, Sydney, and Perth, achieving her goal of head of marketing strategy by the age of 28 before making the transition into her business. She built a 7-figure business in the first 5 years and has supported her clients as they've built 6, multi-6, and 7-figure businesses, created 6 and multi-5-figure launches, triple their income, and completely transform their businesses and lives using mindset, marketing, and strategy. Ellie's mission is to support coaches, mentors, and consultants create businesses with a mastermind as part of their offer suite that generates results for their clients and create the freedom they most want. She has been featured in a range of media, including Success Magazine, Medium, Mamma Mia, Thrive Global, Smart Company, The Western Australian, and as a guest on more than 100 podcasts. So again, you can find her by listening to the Scalable Freedom Show, as well as reach out to her and connect with her on Instagram. Her Instagram handle is at Ellie H. Swift. All right, divine ones. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this beautiful wisdom-packed conversation with my dear friend, fellow space holder, and personal business coach, Ellie Swift. Welcome to Sacred Strategy, the business and energy podcast where bold strategies meet the magic of energy and intuition. I'm Sora Schilling, sacred space holder, business alchemist, and creator of the Devoted Archetypes, Sovereign Selling, and the Devoted Energy Coaching Model. For over a decade, I've guided thousands of coaches and space holders to build thriving, soul-aligned businesses that create impact and life-changing money. Let's cut through the noise of traditional strategies and uncover your unique medicine. Use the devoted archetypes to become a transformational space holder and learn to sovereignly sell with integrity. This podcast is your invitation to step into your magic and create a blissfully abundant business and life filled with curiosity, awe, and wonder. Let's dive in.
All right, Ellie, I can't believe we get to finally have this conversation together. Welcome to the pod. No, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very, very excited for this conversation. I was considering actually the last time that we were together in person, and I wonder if one of the last times we were on retreat together, I believe, and then before that, I think were we in London together?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
London
We
together.
were. We
I was
were.
thinking about that. We were sitting in a seat having lunch. We were all chatting, and it really warmed my heart. So I was thinking about you and the moments where we got to connect in person. And now, even though we're far away, I'm so glad that I get to have a conversation with you so that we can share some of your wisdom and your body of work.
I love that so much. Yeah, I often think about the retreat in particular that we were on because our gal, Julie Parker, knows how to bring people together. And that was, yeah, one of those really special times. I miss those. I miss those. We need to do another one.
I miss those too. Exactly. One of the things that I recall is also this space of your utter joy and space of growth in your business. And you were excited because you were launching and doing all of these epic things and you were collaborating. And there was just such joy in the way that you always navigate business. And so I find that to be true in regards to your spaces always. You enter in with a mindset and an energetic of joy and connection, and you have a deep sense of faith. So before we go into anything else, even though this isn't a question that I thought I was going to ask, could you share a little bit about what in your essence creates that? Because you are so positive and you really work on your mindset to then create that life that you actually desire to live.
Oh, thank you. That's such a beautiful, kind thing. So where it's come from, I could answer this in two ways. So the first is I have a very positive mama. So there is 100% a lineage piece there. Both my brother and I have this kind of energy of positivity and optimism that we carry in different ways. And so because that's reflected in both of us, I know that there's definitely a lineage piece there. And then when I look at the connective threads across throughout my journey, I can see different points where there's a soul mission that was meant to be fulfilled. And it started with the young child that was optimistic and, very bright about the world. And it evolved as the teenager who was desperate to get her hands on personal development books and was always really interested in personal development and who, wanted to have conversations about Buddhism because I was so interested about that with my parents and wanted to go to church group with my best friend because I was fascinated about what they were doing there. Like I've always, and I will say, I'm somebody who identifies as being very spiritual, but I don't identify as being part of, denomination or believe in a denominational God. But I've always been fascinated by faith and by meaning and by purpose and by something bigger than us here on this earth. And so then as we move further through my life, that's manifested as somebody who deeply believes in the power of co-creation. So the way I operate is I'm always operating in co-creation with a universal power and energy. And because of that, I think about it, my brain is very strategic. I think about it very strategically as 50% is the universe guiding me and 50% is me and my personal belief and belief in the power of my mind. And so because of what I believe is having full ownership of that 50%, I'm always looking at, well, what do I need to do to up level and upgrade my mind? Because I know that that is how I call in and attract and co-create to manifest what I want. And while I can't pinpoint the first moment that was able to do that, I know that there was obviously evidence that started to stack that made me go, oh, I don't need to buy into lineage or conditioning or even what I see around me in my immediate life as that is what my future looks like. I get to really choose and decide. And so thank you for the kind words that you shared there because I know that when it comes to business, so much of what I've created in business has been from that mindset and viewpoint. And in fact, you and I were just having a conversation before that we know that upgrades happen in business when they start at an identity level. And so I'm always trying to coach by empowering and encouraging somebody to really see possibility in themselves and their work and their mind, because I know that when they can see that for themselves, that that's going to lead to real change in business.
Totally. And when you mentioned both the faith and also where you see this space of expansion and growth, right? There is two words that you use quite often. And I wonder if you can describe this for our listeners to help them begin to identify as that and have that kind of life. So you support business owners with this idea of scalable freedom, right? And for our life coaches and space holders and healers out there that are listening, I often find that they have that healer wound of there's no way that I could have that kind of freedom or scale in my business. And I wonder if you can bestow upon them what you envision for your clients, right? You hold it so dearly.
Yes. So the concept of scalable freedom was born from the idea that I believe that for coaches and creatives and consultants in the online space, we've been lied to about what freedom looks like. I truly believe and have seen the evidence of in, the thousands of people I've worked with now that freedom comes when you consciously, actively work towards creating scale in your business. If you want a freedom-based business, that comes through being really intentional about the way that you scale. And so that term scalable freedom, I wanted it to feel very proactive, as in you get to create freedom if you decide that you are going to scale to create it. So, this idea of passive freedom being sold the lifestyle on the beach, the laptop lifestyle on the beach, I know that's not true. I've never seen an example of that. And you have been in so many masterminds. And so, you and I get to see inside so many 7-8-figure businesses, like we're all doing some sort of workout here. And that work gets to look joyful, gets to look incredible. Like it absolutely does for me. And I know you love your business too and feel that way too. But it's not passive. It's not I sat back and then I created online freedom. It's I intentionally decided to scale to create this specific type of freedom in my business. So that's where that term came from, because I wanted it to feel active, but also really empowering in nature of, hey, you get to create this. And I say this as a person who has a lot of privilege, so many reasons. Yes, I'm white, grew up in middle-class Australia. And also alongside that, I, didn't come from money. I didn't come from connections that have led me in a certain way in my business. And so I worked out what I wanted and I went after that. And I really hope that, in sharing that concept, it can inspire other people to see, oh, I can create something, from the ground up myself as well.
Definitely. And so what I hear from you is also this idea of, number one, you got to define what freedom meant for you. And that probably shifted and changed it based on your life and the season you were in it with life. But you were very specific, right? We often use that word freedom, but what does that mean? Is freedom sustainability? Is freedom having more time for your family? Like, what does is freedom being able to pay your taxes? Like, what does that actually mean? And then the second thing was taking those actionable steps, and you did the work, right? And often work could be seen as like a negative thing, but we're talking of it as a positive. This is our life mission. So we're going to work at it, both from a mindset approach and an internal approach, but also the actual tangible work that needs to happen to help your business grow. And so my community members know that as, for me, I call it spiritual payment. Right?
Love. Love.
Right? We have to take steps forward in order to get to where we want to go as well. And so part of you in this idea of scaling is that I know you love masterminds. I know that you love teaching people how to hold masterminds. And that's part of why you believe in scaling, that part of your scaling can happen through the lens of a mastermind. Could you share a little bit about what is a mastermind? How would you define it? And how can other people begin to consider what that might be in that world of coaching?
Absolutely. So a mastermind in its truest, purest definition is coming together or bringing together a collective group of people who are creating one mastermind. So it's the bringing together of people who all have some sort of collective or shared vision to purposefully grow, up level, upgrade. And of course, the way in which they do that is going to change depending on the purpose and the problem that you solve for your specific mastermind. So, for example, sorry, you and I obviously do that through a business lens. So we run business masterminds where we have a really specific problem that we help people solve in our masterminds. Now, I'm going to give you like a slight addition to that definition, because that is what we've just described is a mastermind in the truest sense of a word. And then also, if we're creating a mastermind in our business, there's a way that we can do that is A, going to make it easier for us to make it a business model, and B, help make it scalable. And the way that we do that is by getting really specific about how we can help our clients with solving a specific problem. So when people think mastermind, I think so often they go, oh, it's about community and just bringing people together. And what does that look like? But actually, if you think about it as it's a group where you, as the creator of the mastermind, are looking to help your ideal client to solve a problem, that is way more empowering for you, because it's going to give you more control as the business owner to go, well, what is it that I want to create then, and intentionally have as a product, as an offer to bring people to. When you know what problem you're solving for a specific group of people, that is when you get to build a really incredible business, because solving a problem for them, they're going to see that you help them solve that problem. They're going to want it. Everyone wins. So that's the second piece I would add there, is that, when it comes to running a mastermind as a business, it's all about deciding what problem you're wanting to solve for your ideal client and then creating something to serve that.
I love that. So number one, when you think about the problem that needs to be solved, for example, for you, you know that there is a problem that needs to be solved, which is you believe in masterminds. You love teaching people how to hold their own mastermind. So before we go into that signature model of yours, which I think is one also key to then being able to scale, right? And I feel like that's something we talk about a lot, you and I, and we love to think about the systems of a framework. So I'm going to go there. But before I do, since you have all these students who have gone through the mastermind model and have their own versions of masterminds, could you share examples for coaches and healers that might not be in business, just so that they can get really curious about what's possible?
Definitely. I love that you asked this, because there's a real misconception that a mastermind is just business to business. But masterminds are groups that have been coming together in so many ways for years and years and years. So the key thing is that you might just not be using that language of mastermind, because that word mastermind might not fully resonate for your ideal client. Now, to talk about this, I feel like I need to give another definition here, which is what's the difference between a group program and a mastermind, because that might be a consideration for your client source. So now, if you ask different people, they're going to tell you different things. Here's what I know confidently as somebody who's supported hundreds of people to build their masterminds now. What I know to be true is that the best masterminds are masterminds that are also hybrid group coaching experiences. So a really true mastermind is peer-to-peer, those peer-to-peer conversations. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Less structure, more about the master of the minds together. A group program, on the other hand, is a come in, we're going to move through a framework and I'm going to help you to get a result. A hybrid experience is one where we go, okay, what is the problem I'm helping my ideal client to solve? And then what is the group that's going to help facilitate to help them solve that problem? What's the process I create through that offer or product, mastermind product? So for somebody who maybe is a spirituality coach, let's just say maybe they work with people, what would be a problem that one of your ideal clients would solve as a spiritual coach?
To begin to release this need to people please and really honor their ability to step into spiritual, that like themselves as a spiritual being, and be very bold about it in their community.
Okay, amazing. So say I'm a spiritual coach who really helps people to, as you say there, connect to your spirituality, stop people pleasing. Like that's essentially the promise that I'm helping you with. So I might have a group space where that's the promise that I'm solving. And it is essentially a mastermind space because you know that you're bringing people together in community and helping them to solve that problem. Another example is, in the health space, we might run a health focused mastermind. Maybe the outcome or the problem we help people solve is to lose weight or to, get back their energy, at the age of 50 plus, and again, I'm just highlighting random niches here. That might be something. Relationship space. I might run, I know somebody who runs a relationship mastermind. And that's specifically for couples. And it's all about coming together and having conversations to deepen and have the best possible soulmate relationship they can. I've got, a client who I worked with who sold out a mastermind that was for middle managers. So she specifically worked with people in the middle management space who needed to come together and wanted to come together to grow outside of their workplaces. So really, if you think about all the different possible niches out there, whether they are business to consumer or business to business, you can create some sort of mastermind. The key thing is to go, what's the problem I'm helping my ideal client to solve? And then does a mastermind structure fit helping them to solve that problem?
And I love the distinction of what is this new iteration of what mastermind is, because what I hear and what my community members might pick up on is that number one, it's space holding and essentially circle. So it's a group communal experience of people coming together to really understand and go deep within. And so there's that aspect of vulnerability in community alongside a framework based on a problem, which is why you are the coach or the space holder that's solving it. And so it's very specific in that way. And you can move them through based on your medicine and your thoughts around how to shift, but also you don't have to do it one-on-one. So there's this really fun component of having more than one person at a time go through it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about that piece around the framework then. So could you describe a little bit about what made you even consider the mastermind model? How did you essentially create the framework? You don't have to tell us what the framework is, right? But how, so that if someone was starting to listen, be like, I kind of want to do a mastermind. I see how it's a hybrid of a group and the deliciousness of a circle, but I don't have a framework. And you and I love talking about methodology and creating them and helping our clients with it. So tell us a little bit how you did it.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to answer that first part of the question first. And it's quite a fun story of how the mastermind model came to be. So we were having a conversation before about how I really love being by the water. And you were like, oh yeah, what a give or take. We're talking about elements for context, talking about astrology, then we're talking about elements, then we're talking about water. So this story starts with me sitting by the water on the beach 3 years ago. And, this is just before my daughter came into the world, maybe a year before. And I was sitting there and I was having this sort of, immense gratitude, which is such a big part of my practice, immense gratitude for this life and business that I've created, this mastermind model of business that I've created. Who knew you could just create this mastermind and you could grow it and you could scale it and you could create this amazing life for yourself? And then I was sitting there and I was like, no one talking about this. Like, what? Why? There's Stu McLaren's over here talking about memberships and there's other people, talking about online courses, but no one's really talking about how, and, ding, 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 ding. Okay. Like, you're meant to talk about this, Ellie. And it really felt like that light bulb moment. And I don't know if anyone listening to this is really there with me on that journey when you have those moments where you're like, oh, thank you. I hear you. Like, this is meant to be for you. And I truly felt that. And from that day, I felt that ever since. Like, you are supposed to be talking about this because it's that real lived experience of I started my first mastermind. I'd never been in a mastermind because I was looking around for masterminds at the time and I couldn't find what I wanted, being a very specific recovering control freak. I kind of had in my mind what I wanted, couldn't find it anywhere. And I was like, what does it look like to create this thing? Went ahead, created it, sold it out, probably because I was just so excited talking about it on that first video to my clients and potential clients. So that's the story of how it came to be. And then to answer your second question, I would love to share the framework specifically. So what I did was I went through and looked at, okay, well, what are all the ways that I can see that my masterminds have been successful? And just to share with your listeners, when I say successful, something that I'm so proud of with our masterminds is that we have a really high retention rate. And so that was the thing that gave me confidence when I started putting together this framework, was not just that I've sold out my masterminds for the last 6 years, but also that we have a high retention rate. And the reason why that gave me confidence is because we know that if we have a high retention rate, it means we must be doing something okay within our mastermind for people to want to stay and pay us again, actively pay us again. So I looked at, well, what have I been doing other than just trying to do my best, which we're all doing? And I identified that, with my strategist brain on, I'd gotten really specific about a few things. So the first thing that I've been very specific about is exactly what I said before of, if you are creating a mastermind, you're creating any business, you want to start by asking yourself, what is the problem that I'm solving for my ideal client? What is the problem that I'm helping them to solve? And so many people in the coaching, consulting, mentoring space, you would see this so much as well, Sora, is we don't actually come back to that foundational first principle of business. We instead go, what's everyone else doing? That mastermind sold out. Why? How do I copy that? And we don't even do it intentionally thinking that, we're going to go out and copy someone's work. We just are looking for evidence outside of ourselves instead of coming back to those first business principles. So that's the first thing, is thinking about what is the problem that you are solving. Seth Godin is one of my mentors. He has absolutely no idea that he is, but he always talks about, solve a problem for a specific niche group of people. So once you've done that and you come into the structure of your mastermind, so you asked about the framework of actually how do you create this mastermind? What I identified was that I was always thinking about these 5 C's. What's happening on calls? What's happening between calls, the coaching between calls? What am I doing in terms of my curriculum and content? How am I structuring my community? And then what's the overall container criteria? So my boundaries, go here, do this, onboarding. And when that kind of came to be, and obviously there was a little bit of wangling that to make sure that I could get that alliteration of the 5 C's. But when I got there, I realized,
And actually, we love alliteration.
That's important.
Acronyms, right? It's here.
100%. What I realized was that, if you step through each of those, you are going to create this super mastermind experience, because you're going to be looking at every area that is important for people when they're going through that process. So, if you take away anything from this, if you're listening in, start by looking at the problem that you can help to solve for your client. In another way of looking at this is think about what is point A that they're at right now and what is point B that you are going to help them get to. And then when you're thinking about the mastermind itself and the delivery experience, think about those 5 C's. And I obviously go into a lot of detail about those in my program, but it's going to help you get clear and feel empowered to create an experience that's going to help deliver results. And again, so much of it's our mind, right? We start a mastermind and our 3 a.m. thoughts are like, is this right? Am I doing it right? Is it good enough? And then we get into these spirals of over delivery and needing to do more. And then we kind of start to self-sabotage our experience. So having that framework to set up, it's going to support us to create something that we're really proud of and we can really get behind.
And you get behind it because you can feel your excitement. You can
I'm
feel
so
your
excited. I'm losing the
love. You just feel the resonance of it, right? So
I love it.
If I was to sorify what you just shared, right?
Yeah.
In regards
Please
to
do.
my language.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Go.
because I am strategic, but I also am all about the whole spiritual component to it. So if I was to clarify it, number one, what I heard was you were led from a divine space, meaning you met inspiration and you allowed your intuition to be open to it. And so in the divine timing, it happened and you were by the water and you just knew something occurred. And yes, it could have been your mind, but also there's a little bit of a divinity that happened there where you channeled an information that came through. And I always want to honor that because, like you said, you open yourself up from the space of gratitude. And I do think there's an energetic principle to that. And then the second thing you were speaking of, to me, it's really honing in on the awareness of your medicine. Like, what is your magical quality that people are like, Ellie, how in the world? This is amazing. And that's the high retention rate that you have. And so when we can identify and confidently be able to express for ourselves, like, this is my magic. I am effing amazing at this component. And being able to then take a moment and actually strategically break it down as to what is it that I'm doing that might feel quite easeful, that then becomes your framework. And so to me, it's like, for example, my medicine is I know how to witness someone and articulate their magic. So they come to me being like, I don't know how to express what I do. I'm just magic. How do I even talk about it? I'm like, no, there's actually quite a way to talk about who you are and what you do and how you serve. And then the other part of my framework is around, okay, well, now that I know this, I want to leave my legacy, meaning I don't want to just take other people's stuff. I want to be able to share what I know, hence my methodology, my framework, my model. And so I know how to witness them and their cycles of healing to pull that out of them. And so I love this because it becomes this playful game for everyone who's listening about how to create this, a mastermind or their framework and community. All those components are there. It's simply being able to witness divine inspiration, knowing who you are, breaking down how you do what you do, and listening to your clients to recognize what it is that they're telling you and being able to really listen to why they love you so much.
And what you described there is, I think, where so many of us are overcomplicating things because we refuse to believe that it gets to be as simple as making money from the things that come easy to us.
Yeah.
And I know that that is something that you find so often. You and I've had conversations about this before. And so it's like the ultimate in being able to receive, isn't it? Being like, yeah, this gets to be easy. When I launched the Mastermind Model program, I can't remember how many people we had come through that first time. It was close to 100. We've had nearly 200 people come through in 2.5 years that we've had it. And I remember being like, what is this wizardry? And it was people who I remember the first time I saw an 8-figure business owner sign up. And then shortly after that, a multi-7-figure business owner that I have followed since day one in my business. And I had to reach out to her and I had to send her a bit of a like fangirly message of like, I just need to tell you that I've followed you since the start of my business. And now you're here signing up to my program, like really appreciate you. And those types of incredible things occur when you're like, hey, I did this thing. This feels easy for me and I'm going to take it and share it and not overcomplicate it. And I really hope for anyone listening that feels freeing, because guaranteed that you're doing things right now in your business that you're trying to overcomplicate because you think that's the way to get results. But actually, when you simplify everything, sorry, you and I just had a conversation about your mastermind and your business and how it's like this year through the process of structure, simplification, systems, that for you has been the key to scale.
And like you said, once I owned and honored the fact that I love strategy, energy, but also people come to me because of my space holding, right? So I've got an epic way of holding space, and most folks are entering in because they are eager to understand that part to weave into their business. And we share this from a place of, yes, we want to boast because we are amazing at what we do, but every single person who's listening also has some sort of quality within them. So if we were to then go into the space of, okay, if they're questioning their ability to even be like, I don't even know if I could do this, right? So if this is your final, like, no, you can, if you recognize this, so that they're feeling inspired and motivated, what would you say if they said, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do what Ellie does, but I can't.
Okay, look, we've just got to be so real in this example. Let me tell you all the things I did not know when I started my first mastermind. So I said this before, actually, and I mean this is a full unintentional plug, but please go to my Instagram and find the post that I did. It'll maybe be a couple of rows down because at the time of recording this, I posted it a couple of days ago. It's like the 5 most unhinged things I did when I launched my first mastermind. Like, please go and look at that because you're just going to get an insight into where I was at and my lack of skills and expertise. And like, there were not things that I'd gone out and knew before I launched that first mastermind. For example, I'd never been in a mastermind myself. Now that's like part of my story. You know, I'd never been in a mastermind myself. So if you think about that, I was flying completely blind. Like, I kind of made my own mastermind model in some ways, which obviously now I have, but was flying so blind. And so I just went in with like self-trust, and this is what I would want from the experience. And I followed that. You know, I didn't know how to hold group space. Like, I remember the welcome ceremony that I ran, Sora, and we're both Beautiful You Coaching Academy coaches. And I was just like channeling my inner Julie Parker at the time. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. And all I have is my energy and my care and my desire, and I'm going to learn as I go. I remember the first time there was a little bit of like, you know, challenge amongst people in my group space and being like, oh shit, how do I handle this? You know, but the intention, the desire, the care was there. And so I hope you can hear in me speaking to this, there's a difference between going into something blindly and not caring or not showing up fully for it versus going in with like all the care, all the intention, all the desire, and also knowing that you are going to be making things up as you go along when you do them for the first time. That is the thing about business. That is the thing about entrepreneurship. If we waited till we were ready, we wouldn't start the business. We wouldn't start the product. We wouldn't start the offer. We would not do the thing. Everything we are doing, we're doing so from a place of it never having happened before. So believe in yourself, trust yourself, and then take the steps there. You have to do that, because what are you going to do? Die with all this fire, passion, life, you know, a business inside you that you never brought to life? I don't want to do that. I know you don't want to do that, Sora. And so if you're listening to this, like, are you going to let yourself do that? Like, you got to go after the things and be willing to fail and laugh at yourself. Like, hopefully you can hear the lightness that I share. Like, I've made so many mistakes, and I also know that I'm prepared to clean them up if I make them. You know, I'm so willing to be wrong. Like, I work with the most incredible women. Sora, you know, we in my business, it's a higher level mastermind. Like, I have people who are making, you know, multi 6 and 7 figures who have been in the industry for a long time. You have been in the industry longer than I have. I am so inspired by my clients and work in a way with my clients where there is no hierarchy. There is honoring of the things that I know really well and honoring of the things that my clients know really well coming together. And if I were to fail or get something wrong, I apologize and do better. Like, I think we just need to know that if we go at things with all care, all desire, all intention to show up and do a really great job, we can't get it wrong. Like, we truly can't get it wrong. And I wish more people knew that. So I know that became a bit of a passionate rant, but ultimately it's the long way of saying, like, just go do the thing and trust yourself even when it feels hard.
Yes. And I love that it was so passionate, because I find that that's what will help us remember that it's okay. What you're saying is it's okay to make a mistake, and it's okay to feel like you've failed something in order for you to learn to be better at it. And so therefore, if you have the courage and you have a calling, so everyone has a calling, and that's why they're in the business that they are in. And so then it's about taking that first action to do something that's brand new, knowing that you are not going to know what you don't know until you go through the thing and then realize, oh, okay, maybe I need to shift this and maybe I made a mistake. And I find that that growth, everyone can remember a moment in time that they've done that, right? If it's not in your business, in a different space in your life, so that you can carry that wisdom and knowing and make the bold move, including doing the thing that Ellie does, which is a mastermind, or that I do, or, whatever that is. And so I love that takeaway. Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Any final thoughts or feelings you want to share before we close?
Just that I really loved this conversation. Thank you for asking the questions that you have that, have allowed me to share why I feel so passionately about running masterminds. But, the main reason being is that I just believe so deeply from my own experience and now from supporting so many other people that a mastermind is a powerful business model, whether it's a part of your offer suite or the whole show. And so if you haven't considered it for yourself, I would strongly consider it in your business. Or if you have a small one and you're looking to scale it, I would really consider investing your time and energy there, because the return in terms of financial return, that recurring revenue, safety in your business, the time freedom, the connection, the impact, the opportunity is so, so huge when you double down on creating a mastermind in your business.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Last thing, if someone was interested in not creating a mastermind, but entering into a mastermind, what would you tell them? Or if someone was like, no, I'm never going to, what would you tell them?
I would be if you were sitting right in front of me, I'd be like, oh, why not? Like, I'd be so curious about that. And so I'd encourage you to really sit with that for yourself. One of our other incredible sisters in my mastermind that you're with me on, Sora, she's a holistic therapist. And she said something recently that's really stuck with me. She said, statistically, we grow and develop most in a group setting in terms of, our relationships. I really need to find the data on that because this is such a quotable thing for me to share. But it's really stuck with me because what it says to me is that so often we can hide one-to-one. And so perhaps if you're resisting the idea of being in a mastermind, there is a piece of you that doesn't want to be seen. There's a piece of you that maybe doesn't want to show up fully. I'd get curious about what that's about and then encourage yourself to perhaps challenge that, because if you want to grow and expand in business, it does require you to be seen in almost every single way. And so it sounds like by just having that kind of resistance to masterminds, you might have just identified your ultimate edge of growth.
I agree. I love that, especially because I would love for all of you to host your mastermind and as well be held in one, because it is a massive, wonderful experience from a self-development as well as a business standpoint. To have both in your life is really, really nourishing.
I so hear that. And I can only imagine, at risk of making this like a gushy ending, I can only imagine the type of facilitator that you are as a mastermind space holder, knowing that you have such an amazing blend of really seeing people and also being really practical and strategic with them around how they can build and scale their business.
Thank you. Oh, we can just keep going with the love fest, but I feel like it's quite the listeners. I know they're like, really, I need to end this now. So we shall end. We'll chat after we end the recording. But thank you again, Ellie, for your wisdom, for the work that you do, the service you provide, also how I love you in your mastermind and you being a coach of mine, but also a friend. And so it's been an epic ride. So thank you.
Such a pleasure, and likewise.
Now, here's a little gentle reminder. If you're seeking to be in a magical mastermind container, I would love, love, love to explore whether the Lush Business Mastermind aligns with your values and your vision. I absolutely adore this offer and the service that I provide. And if you already have a mastermind or you're ready to create one, my sacred strategic brain and space holding heart may be exactly what you need to root into it and watch it bloom with abundance and transformational potency. This is what I love most, helping clients create offerings and frameworks that are not only strategic and scalable, but infused with their unique medicine and held in a way that leaves their clients forever changed.